What is up, guys? Soulsport is back again with another video, and in today's video I just want to talk about a topic that has kind of surfaced and came to light following the NBA draft lottery, and that's the new NBA draft lottery odds. Now, in my opinion, I personally don't like the new odds, and that's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. But my main problem with the odds is that I'll just get into it in the video, but discussing what some key points that people have made as to why the draft lottery is good. I'll use those key points and I'll have a counter argument to those points, and yeah, so let's get into it. So obviously the main topic of discussion for surrounding why these draft lotteries were made was to add an anti-tanking rule. You'd see teams deliberately tank throughout the season, such as what the Sixers did with the process in tanking for 4 years and getting these great players that they have now in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and then using those players to then surround them with great players and be able to compete. And people were like, this is not fair. You can't deliberately go out there and say, you don't want to play hard, you don't want to, give it your all. But for me, I don't agree with that, because what about those teams that were actually bad, such as the Cleveland Cavaliers, who last year they actually sucked. They weren't good at all. I mean, that's just how it was. They just weren't good, and they had the second best odds and they fell all the way to fifth. That affects them highly. But I think this anti-thing, based on what happened last year, it just gives more for teams an incentive to tank, such as a team who maybe is on the cusp of making the playoffs and they probably know that they won't make the playoffs. Then they'll just go out there and deliberately tank, such as what we saw the Lakers did last year. Obviously, it stemmed from LeBron coming back from injury, and they wanted to make sure that he was 100%. But still, I mean, if you were in the playoff hunt, LeBron would have definitely played throughout the last, strings of games, and he did it. And the Lakers jumped from, I believe, 11th to 4th. Same thing. You can't really say the same thing for the Pelicans, but the Pelicans is another example how Anthony Davis requested a trade. They sat him because they didn't want to affect his trade value in case he got injured. But I don't think that tells the whole story. I think they sat him to also try and tank, because if you're going to trade Anthony Davis, you also want a high draft pick to pair with whatever you trade him for, and they got that. They got the number 1 overall pick, and they got Zion Williamson. So that's just my opinion on that. I feel like, I don't know, you can go both ways. Obviously you can say, oh, it'll make tanking teams basically not tank, but as I just said, these teams, they aren't good. It's not like they're intentionally trying to tank. It's just that they are not good, And I want to touch on another point with the Cavs too. It just doesn't allow teams to establish that great, player that every team has that's key to the rebuild. For the Cavs, Colin Sexton, he probably was not going to be a key part to the rebuild. I think he was just an example of a player putting up good stats on a bad team. That's literally what I just see it as. If I'm thinking about their future, I don't know if Colin Sexton is in it, maybe as a backup, or maybe they use him as trade bait to get another player to further then help them, in their rebuild. But that's just my opinion on that. The second opinion, or second topic of discussion that people have is that, you can still draft players late. Like the Warriors dynasty, Curry was picked 8th or 9th. Klay Thompson was picked 11th. Draymond Green was a second round pick. And they were able to draft those guys and build around them and form a dynasty. They won 3 championships. And then there's other examples: Kawhi, Giannis, Nikola Jokic, players like that. But again, to my response to that is, how many times do we see those type of players in drafts? I mean, yeah, you have the occasional Nikola Jokic's coming out, the occasional Kawhi Leonard's, the occasional Giannis's. But those are rare examples, so to say. Each of these players were put into like the right system, I guess you could say. Kawhi Leonard, he was drafted, but he was drafted to the Greg Popovich Spurs. Greg Popovich molded him to become what the player he is now. Nikola Jokic, he was drafted to the Denver Nuggets, and he played behind Yusuf Nurkic until he got good, and then Yusuf Nurkic was traded, and then Nikola Jokic was given the keys. Okay, but how many Nikola Jokic's are there out in the world? We don't know. Giannis, the Bucks just said, forget everything, we're just going to build around Giannis. That was their whole persona. You got this 6'10", 6'9", 6'11" guy who's incredibly raw, and you're just going to try to build around, and hopefully he can turn into something. Yes, but I don't know. You can't just always go off of raw players, so to say, because it won't work all the time. You can't just always go off of, athletic, wing players that are good at defense, because it won't always work it won't always work on your favor. You can't always go after European players who know how to pass, because it just won't always work out in your favor. You can't always go off of guys who can shoot, because it just won't work out in your favor. Some examples: Jimmer Fredette, obviously, next Stephen Curry, whatever. He did not pan out. With Kawhi Leonard, DeAndre Hunter this year was compared to him. Will DeAndre Hunter become what Kawhi did? I doubt it. So it's just examples like that I just don't agree with. It just doesn't make sense, because I think it's unfair. It's unfair to just give that example, because those are huge examples that are once in a lifetime things that don't happen every single draft. That's just my opinion on that. But moving on, as I said earlier, the main topic of discussion is just how it hurts teams, that are just bad. The Knicks last year, I don't really like to use the Knicks as an example, because they are a big market free agent. But the Knicks last year were bad, and if they had drafted Zion Williamson, they probably would have KD and Kyrie right now. That's just my opinion. But I don't know. That's just what I feel. I think it needs to change, most definitely. I think probably revert it back. I guess you could say the tanking thing was but still, yeah, I don't know. You don't. I don't know how to say it, but the number one pick in every draft won't always be good. The Sixers deliberately tanked, and they only ended up with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, even though those are generational talent players. There's still a lot of teams in the NBA that are proclaimed to be better than them, such as the Bucks or the Lakers or the Clippers, maybe even the Rockets. So it doesn't matter. You're not going to always hit on your picks. Ask the Suns. The Suns have been a high pick team for how long? For a long time now. And the only 2 picks they've hit on in the last, 4 years is Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. So it doesn't matter where you're picking. Sometimes you'll hit, sometimes you'll miss. That's just how it is. But yeah, that's just gonna do it for me. I just had to talk about that, get that off my chest. Let me know your opinion down below in the comment section on this new draft lottery odds, if it should be reverted back or if it should be kept the same. But that's gonna do it for this video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy. It's So Sports, and I'm out. Peace.